In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to make this very cool bracelet. It is adjustable and it's reversible. Stay tuned. For today's project, you will need two different color yarns. I'm going to be using this charcoal color and this royal blue because I love royal blue. You'll need a pair of scissors, and then you're going to need two different size crochet hooks. Okay, so I am going to be using a size J, which is 6 millimeters, and that is US. And then I'm also going to be using a letter G. I forget offhand what the corresponding millimeter is, but yeah, it's about 3 sizes smaller. It doesn't matter what sizes your crochet hooks are, but you'll see once we get to using the smaller hook, it's just gonna make it easier in terms of going into the stitches. So just 2 size crochet hooks, one larger and one 2 to 3 sizes smaller. If you happen to have a weaving, darning, tapestry needle around, then you can have that as well, but it is optional, you don't need it. And when I made this bracelet right here, I didn't even use it. So let's get started. Alright, so in this bracelet that I made, I started with the gray. Okay, so if you want whatever your first color is to be where the gray is, then start with that. This time I'm going to start with the blue, so where you see the gray, that's where my blue will be. So we're going to start with the larger crochet hook. Remember, this for me is J, 6 millimeters. And you want to leave a long tail. Okay, you'll understand why later, but just leave a pretty long tail like that. And now we will start with a slip knot. So that long tail, and then wrap it over like that, pull it over, pull up, and then insert your crochet hook. And then close the loop. So you'll see you have this long tail, and that is intentional. Now for this bracelet, I ended up chaining a total of 25 plus 1. This time I'm going to make it just a little bit shorter. So I'm going to chain 20 plus 1. So it'll be a total of 21 chains. I want you to make them nice and loose. Okay, don't make them tight, because when it's time for us to enter in them, it'll just make it easier if you've made them loose. Okay, so 1, see how it's nice and loose. 2, 3, 4, 5, see how they're really loose. Okay, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, for those of you who count in Spanish, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, y uno más, 21. Okay, so now we have 21 chains. Now it all depends on the size of the wrist of the person that you're making this for. So you're gonna want to fit it around that wrist, or get a general idea of how wide their wrist is. Okay, 25 worked for me, and this time 20 works for me plus 1, so the total of 21 chains. Alright, so the reason we chained 21, that extra chain, is because we're about to put single crochets into these chains, but that first chain, that's going to count as a single crochet, kind of. Not really, but kind of. Anyway, so let me zoom in a little bit so you guys can really see what I'm doing now. Alright, so you have your chains like this. You're going to turn them over on their back side now, and you're going to see these little humps in the back. Okay, so this first chain right there, this right here, the part of the yarn that's connected to the skein, that would be that hump for that chain right there, if we had made another chain. So we want to go into that very next hump. Okay, so technically this is not really a hump, because we would have to go on for it to fold over like that and become a hump, but because we didn't, it's not really a hump. So, but this right here, that one is a hump. So, since we're making a single crochet, we're not going to yarn over first. We're just going to enter the hump. So slide our crochet hook up under that one hump, okay, like that. Now we're going to yarn over and pull through. And we're going to have 2 loops on our crochet hook, yarn over, go through 2, okay? And we've made our first single crochet. Let's do another one. So that was the first hump that we went into. This right here is the next hump right there, okay? So enter the hump, just slide your crochet hook up under it like that, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, now yarn over and go through 2. The next hump is right there, okay? See it? So we'll just slide up under the hump like that. 2 loops, yarn over, pull through. 2 loops on our crochet hook now, yarn over, go through 2. I'll show you one more. So this right here, from the area view, that's our next hump. If I turn it a little bit to the side, you'll see that I'm going to slide up under that one little hump, that one loop, yarn over, pull through. Now we have 2 loops on our crochet hook, yarn over, go through 2, okay? The beauty of entering the chain stitches on the back side where these humps are is that you get the bottom that looks like chain stitches as well. So it's just a cool design, which will work in our favor a little later in this pattern, okay? So just continue going into each hump, putting 1 single crochet, and I will meet you once we get back to the other end where that long tail is, okay? Just continue putting 1 single crochet into each hump. I will see you there. Alright, so we are at our final hump right there. So we're going to enter it, yarn over, pull through to the front, 2 loops, yarn over, go through both loops. Now we're going to chain 1, so yarn over, pull through, and then we're going to, here's that long tail, we're going to measure out the working yarn to approximately the same length as the long tail, which is there. And now we're going to grab our scissors and cut. Alright, now we're going to pull all the way through, so fast enough, pull like that. And we're going to grab these 2 tails and just tie a knot like this. So wrap it around, pull through, like that, pull that through. And before you tighten, make sure you kind of slide the knot down closer to the bracelet like that. Okay? And that is what you have so far. So this is one side with these long tails. So now we're going to move the blue out of the way. And we're going to start to work with this charcoal that I really love. And when we switch to the second color, that's when we switch to the smaller crochet hook. So remember, this is a G for me. Alright, so we also want to leave a long tail here, okay? But what we're going to do is we're going to start on the opposite side of these 2 tails, okay? So this side of the bracelet has these long blue tails. We're going to go to the opposite side, which is here. This side of the bracelet doesn't have any tails yet. It's about to have some tails though. So what I want you to do is to take these tails, the blue side, and kind of just measure out your gray yarn or your charcoal yarn to the length of those tails, okay? And that's how long this tail, this charcoal gray tail, is going to be. Alright, so let me get you guys oriented. So this is the bracelet, right? We tie the knot, here are the tails. So what I want you to do is to just rotate it like this, counterclockwise. So now the tails, the blue tails are off to the right. Here's the long gray tail that we just made. And we're going to stick our crochet hook, the smaller one, into, if you turn it this, so remember, if you turn it this way, the bottom will look like chain stitches also because of the way we crocheted into those chain stitches. Okay, so that was the purpose of crocheting into the back humps or loops. We wanted to see chains here as well. So it's like this, rotate it so you can see the bottom, and then just stick your crochet hook into that chain, that first stitch that looks like a chain, which is there. Alright, so now we're going to take our yarn with this long tail, hook it over, pull that through like that. Try not to split your yarn like I just did, so just pull it out if you do. Put your crochet hook back in there, hook it over, and then pull through like that. And now you have a completely solid piece of yarn. Alright, so now this is going to be a little bit counterintuitive, but we're going to start to work this way around. So we're going to go clockwise around this band. And we're basically just going to be making slip stitches. So what I want you to do is find that next stitch that looks like a chain at the very bottom, or I guess from this view the top, right? So we went into that chain looking stitch. Now I want you to go into the next one right there. So we have this loop, we're going to go into that next chain, and for all intents and purposes we're going to call these chain stitches, even though they're not technically chain stitches, but that's what we're going to call them. Okay, so we enter the chain or the top of the stitch, which looks like a chain stitch. We'll yarn over with the working yarn, not the tail. The tail is here. Okay, sorry, I misspoke. We'll yarn over with the working yarn. The tail is here. See, it's not connected to anything, so make sure you don't yarn over with that. So put that to the front. You yarn over with the working yarn, which is coming from the skein, and then pull through. So you pull through, and then once you get it to the front, pull through that loop. Okay, and we've just made a slip stitch. Let's do another one. So we went through that top stitch. Now let's go into the next one, which is right there. Okay, we'll yarn over, pull all the way through and through the gray on the front side, and that's our second stitch. Let's do another one into the next chain or chain looking stitch, which is there. Okay, yarn over and pull all the way through to the front. And you see it's making, these slip stitches are making these stitches that are also looking like chains. Okay, so we're just going to continue going into the tops of each of these stitches, yarn over and pull all the way through. Make sure you don't get hung up on any of that blue yarn or whatever color yarn you're using. Okay, so insert the hook, yarn over, pull all the way through. Insert the crochet hook, yarn over, pull all the way through. Insert the crochet hook into that top stitch that looks like a chain, yarn over, pull all the way through. Okay, and that's what it should look like. So continue doing that, and I'll meet you once we get down to this other end where these tails are. See you there. Alright, so this is what it's looking like so far. Here's that long charcoal gray tail, and we just slip stitched up the side, and now we're at the other end where the long tails are. So you'll see in this corner here, there's a little bitty gap there where I tied these two strings, which is fine. I want you to go in there like that. Okay, can you guys see that? So I just went in there, and I'm going to move these blue tails out of the way. So I'll pull them forward for a moment, and that's what it looks like on the back side. So I just went in like that. Okay, move the blue tails forward, yarn over, and then pull all the way through. So you have a little slip stitch right at the top there. And now we're going to continue to rotate counterclockwise, and this is the next top stitch, or top of the stitch that looks like a chain. So we'll just enter right there into that right there. Okay, yarn over. These blue tails can go back to the back, so yarn over and then pull all the way through. Okay, and now we just continue what we've been doing. So slice the top, yarn over, pull all the way through. Slice the top, yarn over, pull all the way through. Slice the top of the next stitch, yarn over, pull all the way through. Slice the top of the next stitch, yarn over, pull all the way through. Okay, and you'll continue doing this until you get back to the other end where you started, where this long gray tail is. Okay, I will see you guys there. Alright, so I've made my way back to the end where the long gray tail is, and once again I'm going to slip stitch right at the top there. So there may not be a little chain for you to go into, just go into the hole there and bring it through like that. Okay, so now you guys, I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to measure the working yarn out with the length of the tail like that. I'm going to grab those scissors and I'm going to cut my yarn again. Okay, now I'm going to pull this through, so I'm going to fasten off like that. And just like I did with this end, I'm going to tie a knot on this side as well. So just grab them, wrap it over, pull it through both like that. Once you get it through, just kind of slide that little knot down so that it is as close as possible to the bracelet like that. Okay, so as you can see, you can wear the bracelet on this side or you can wear it on this side. I kind of like this side better, which is why I chose to do it this way on this one. But you could very well wear it on this side, so that's just a matter of personal preference. Alright, so now you guys, it's time to make this an adjustable bracelet. So I'm choosing this side, so I'm going to flip it over and then rotate it like this. Alright, so the bracelet will look like this, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring these two like that. So I'm going to grab this, bring it over like that, and bring this and put it like that. So these two knots will be really close together. So here's the knot of the blue and there's the knot of the gray or charcoal. Now I'm going to lay that down for a moment, and I'm going to measure out just a long piece of yarn. It doesn't need to be super long. I'm making mine about this long, and then I'm going to cut the yarn. Okay, and now I'm going to grab the bracelet again with those knots pretty close. They're just kind of laying there on top of each other. The gray is kind of over the blue. And now I'm going to grab this yarn that I just cut and wrap it around like this. Okay, so I've wrapped this around. It's not over the knots, okay, it's just wrapped around where they're overlapping. I know it's a lot of strands and strings and stuff, but yeah, this is pretty much what it is. Just wrap it over. Once you get it wrapped over, you're gonna just tie a knot. So here's the yarn that I cut, that blue yarn, we'll make sure that it's even on both sides. Alright, and we're just going to tie a knot. So just put it down, and we're going to tie a knot. One, don't pull it too tight, okay? We want it to be loose enough where when we pull on the tails on either side of the bracelet, it has room to slide around. So we don't want to pull too tight with that first knot, okay? But then when it's time to tie the second knot, we can tie that one tighter. So you can pull that one tight, because that won't tighten the initial knot. Alright, so now I want you to grab the tails of the blue that are, attached to the blue knot, and just pull it in, and then grab the gray tails or charcoal tails and pull it in like that. And you can already see how this is going to be adjustable. Alright, so now we're going to take the blue yarn that we just tied 2 knots with. So don't confuse that with the ones that are attached to the bracelet, the other side of the bracelet. That's these. We're going to get those out of the way. And we'll get the gray out of the way. Okay? So we're going to take the tails of the blue yarn that we just tied 2 knots with, and we're going to wrap it. We're going to wrap them around that same area. So just keep wrapping around the area. Okay? So I went around with that one tail a couple of times. Now I'm going to use the other tail and go the other way and wrap that a couple of times. And now I'm going to take the other one, the other tail, wrap it around a couple of times. Okay. And then I'll take the other tail and wrap it around a couple of times. So basically you're just wrapping that area around with the excess tails. And you can start to work back towards the center. Okay. Like that. So I was going out that way. Now I'm going to start to make my way back in to the center. Like that. This one I'm going to make my way back in towards the center. And then when you get both tails on the inside of the bracelet, so when they're down here, then we can tie a couple of knots. So once again, make one knot, pull, not too tight, and then that second knot you can make tight. Like that. Okay? Then we can just use our scissors and cut these off. Now if you had a darning weaving tapestry needle, you could weave these tails into that same area, but I just don't think it's necessary. And it'll be the under part of the bracelet anyway, so it's not like it'll really be an eyesore. Okay? So this is what we have so far. So just to recap right quick, just in case you missed anything, I overlapped the blue tails with the gray tails. Okay? Here's the knot of the gray tails or charcoal tails. Here's the knot of the blue tails. Okay. And then I cut a piece of yarn. It could have been from the gray or charcoal, but I chose the blue. And so I cut off a long piece of the blue yarn. And then where the 2 tails on either side of the bracelet overlap like that, I used that blue yarn to tie a knot, and then I wrapped it around that overlapping area. Okay, so it's hard to show but yeah, this is the overlap, and then right there I just kept, after tying that initial knot, wrapping it around. And then I planned it out so that once I got both tails on the other side, the inside of the bracelet, I tied a couple of knots and then cut the excess tails off. So this is what I have so far. Now we're going to work on putting knots in these 2 ends of the bracelet. So let's make these more even, the tails that is. So I'll cut the excess, and then for this one, once again, let me cut the excess. Alright, and now we're just gonna tie a series of knots. the reason that we're putting knots at either end of these tails is because as you pull this and adjust it, these could eventually slip out, right? This can slip out going that way, this blue can slip out going that way. But if we put knots on the ends of these, then they won't be able to slip out. So just tie a knot, tie first knot, you'll see that's one, and then just keep tying knots until it's big enough where you don't think it'll slip out. 2, 3, 4, and I think that's big enough. So now I'll cut the ends of that so it's not an eyesore. Alright, and since I tied 4 knots on that side, I want to tie 4 knots with the gray. So 1, so that hopefully the balls are of a comparable size. 2, 3, 4. Okay. Pull tight and then cut the excess. Alright, so you guys, this is now what makes this adjustable, because now when I open it up, it won't go through. The knots on either side are preventing it from going through. And so this, you guys, is how you make an adjustable bracelet. Okay? So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this tutorial. Let's put it on. Let's open it up by just pulling. Slide it on. And then I can hold one side with my finger while pulling the other side. Like that. And now I have a reversible adjustable bracelet. So yeah guys, I hope you liked this tutorial. You'll definitely have to try out this pattern. At some point I will probably make a similar tutorial using 100% cotton yarn. You know, that's the kind of yarn that a lot of people will use when they're making dish rags and stuff, just in case you're outside and it's raining one day and it gets wet. But I thought it would be a good idea to use a medium 4 yarn today. Just to show you, because it's bigger and you don't have to worry about the yarn splitting and such. But yeah, I hope you guys like this tutorial. I really like these bracelets. I think they're pretty stylish. So make some of your own, and if you're on Instagram, tag me in a picture so I can see what you've done. That is going to be it for today's video, but you know I'll see you in the next one. In the meantime, happy crocheting.